from the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama. And War Eagle to you.
War Eagle.
We got Paul Finley here, and we got Mike Oliver. You want to put the agenda on the? You want to put the agenda up? Oh, all right. So
Well, it's the first part of the PowerPoint. Yeah, it's the first slide of that. And Mayor Andrews is at a little bit of a disadvantage because we can see him, but he can't see us. So he can hear us loud and clear. And Mayor, we certainly appreciate your time in supporting us in accomplishing this today.
Well, thank you, Paul, for including me. Sorry we've had to backtrack and redo this due to a setback I had a couple months ago, but thank you for your patience, and I look forward to spending some time with you and your community here today.
Perfect.
absolutely.
They got to go to their gadgetry. Hold on a minute. There we go.
So today we'll start with kind of how we got here as a city, and review that on kind of how these conversations all that started. We'll have some other questions with both mayors, and then after that we'll have some question and answer with everybody here. So with that.
All right. Well, I'll go and we'll start with kind of how we got here. But as we get into where we got here, the first and foremost that I want to say is, as mayor of the city of Madison, I can't be any more proud of our city. I'm so happy with the folks that were here before us, that are here now, and again, what we're trying to do is have an open discussion with the community. And listen, but also share what's the best way to go forward. Let's remember, this is a city that started off in 1980 with 4,000 people. We're now just a little under 60,000 people. And we've continued to keep up with managed growth. We've continued to keep our school system strong. We've grown up, as a community. And again, what I think is always best is being able to have a discussion on how do you continue to stay the #1 city in the state of Alabama, which is what we're ranked right now in this zip code that we're sitting in right now. So one of the things that maybe precursor to the first bullet is, I think it was 2018, the Big Five mayors added 5 more mayors. And Mayor Andrews and I were both lucky enough with Auburn and Madison to be 2 of the 5 cities that were added, and we now have the Big 10 mayors. And we meet at a minimum on a quarterly basis at a different location of one of the cities to have open discussion on things that are going on in our respective cities. So one of the neat things for both of us is we started hearing a lot more about how other cities are run. Some of us heard the same areas of concern, as far as whether it was managing growth, sales tax base, crime, a lot of those things. And so I started learning more and more about how other cities worked and ran, and then recognized there were different ways other than how the city of Madison was doing things. We'd also had in 2015 a committee that had come forward to look into this very same subject and had come to some of the conclusions they had. So fast forward to after winning the 2020 election, along with the council that's in place right now, we started looking ahead and says, what's the best way to continue as a city that's grown as the 9th largest city in the state of Alabama right now to be able to manage it in the best possible way. So I went ahead as a mayor, asked and worked with our council, and decided to put a governance transition committee in place. Mike will talk a little bit more about that committee in a minute, but it was a group of 6 individuals, and one of the key pieces for me was finding folks that really had no idea what the right answer was. Just 2 main questions. One, should we right now the mayor and the council are all elected at the same time on the same, should we stagger those elections a la something like what Huntsville does right now? And then the second part of that is, should we keep the form of government we have, which is basically a mayor and city administrator, or should we look to transition into something that's different, that's a mayor, council, city manager form of government? So they were asked and chartered to look into those 2 questions. Once they did, and Michael talked about their answers a little bit, Greg, talked about the next phase, which let's have community meetings. Let's share what they learned. Let's have discussions. Let's hear from you. Let you answer any questions that you have or share any information that you can. And we had the first one on June 22nd, which was the city manager We brought folks in from Mountain Brook and I think Vestavia Hills that in turn were able to talk through some of the reasons that they felt like the city manager role was a good role for their respective cities. And that's how we kind of got to where we are now. So I'm going to transition that over to Mike. Mike Oliver was the one, I think, who has acted as the primary spokesman for the Governance Transition Committee. And I'll let Mike take it from there.
Thank you, Mayor Finley. It's an honor to be here today with you. I appreciate your interest as we gather information together as a community so that we can make the most informed decision moving forward. I think we all have the best at heart for Madison, which we love and care about. And I'm very excited to be a part of this panel today to share what we learned. It was an incredible honor to be asked by the mayor to be a part of this committee. And I did not know the other members of the committee, one by name, but that was it before we began. And I've discovered we have such a diverse group on that committee. Some had lived here for many, many years. I've been here 12 years. So there was a variety of length of being a resident of our area, geographic location. It was a good, diverse makeup of our committee. And so I was real proud to work alongside them. We did this in a very collaborative way. And what we did is we went in really with a blank slate. The mayor met with us the first time to introduce us together. We had donuts and
which always brings everybody together.
Always helps. And then after that, he bowed out and allowed us to have our leeway to make our path and figure out what we would make as a recommendation, which we finally did to the mayor and the city council. So what we discovered as we met and explored with many different cities and different individuals to make the decision is that we recommended that Madison consider putting before the ballot so the individuals of Madison could vote on making the transition, if they choose, to a council manager form of government. So here are some things on this slide that you're seeing that describes a few of the things that would change if we, as the citizens of Madison, vote to change our form of government. And so one of the things that changes is the mayor would become a member of the city council. So the city council have 7 members, and the 7th member in the new form of government would be the mayor. And that would mean that instead of the 7 districts we have now with the 7 council members, we would have redrawn districts with 6 districts and 6 council members. The 7th member would be the president of the council, elected at large, which would be the mayor. So there will be 7 council districts redrawn to 6 and 7 total members on the council. And so those are the differences that would happen in the council. Now, the actual running of the city's operations, the city manager would be a professional that we would hire as a city to take care of the day-to-day operations. This person would deal with all of the city department heads, for example, the budget development for our community, and so forth. So the day-to-day operations would be done by the city manager. The city manager would be selected and hired by the city council. The council and the mayor elected by the citizens to do this job, and part of their job would be to recruit, discover, and hire a city manager. So that's the changes that we identified. The things that would stay the same is that the mayor is still elected at large throughout the city. So the 6 districts and the 6 council members would be elected by the folks in their district. The mayor would be elected at large throughout all the citizens who vote in Madison. The council members would continue then to represent their geographic district that we would have. The citizens can still contact the elected leaders to address concerns. Now, I would just add here, from one of the things that was attractive to me is the council and the mayor set the vision for the city. They're the ones that set the overall goals. It's implemented in the day-to-day, the old big strategy, the day-to-day is implemented by the city manager and all the department heads that we have. So we still keep the vision. That's what we as citizens would vote for, the overall direction of our city. Okay, and so like any decision we make in life, there are always pros and cons that we should consider. And so we tried to identify a few here for you to think about. As far as the pros go for us, as we considered the phenomenal growth of Madison and the needs of a growing city now in the Big Ten. I'm an SEC guy, but we'll say Big Ten. If we're in that category and we're growing, we're continuing to grow, we're in a growing area, this place is a credentialed city management professional to take care of the day-to-day operations of our city. Mayor may not have that background that are elected. This guarantees that we have someone credentialed to do management work, to take care of the day-to-day operations of our city. This provides continuity in our city management, even as elected officials come and go. So one of the things we looked at is the manager may exist, and we hope we have a great city manager that serves long-term and does a wonderful job for us, and they would go through several administrations, perhaps, of city council members and city mayor. So this will provide a great continuity of working relationship in the day-to-day running of our city. Again, implementing the vision and the goals that the city council elected by the people would ask the city to do. The city runs more like a business under this approach, and they would report to the actual council and the mayor, okay? And then the city manager can be removed. So if any hired person we have under the employment contract and agreement letter that we have with them, if they're not performing up to expectations in their duties, then the council has the role of saying you're not implementing the vision. You're not doing these things we've asked you to do, and they can make the decision to replace that city manager with another one. So those are the pros that we had in effect for you to see today. And then the cons, the council, of course, could fail to select and hire a qualified city manager. So we would, when we talked about it in our committee, we talked a good bit about making sure we had success and what are the things that would allow us to have success. And we talked about what were the qualifications of a manager. What would you want to have? And to be sure, as our council went about the process of hiring someone, that they had developed a really good, strong qualification base to use as they make their decisions. So, but it's always possible that it's just not the right fit. So that's one of the cons. In Alabama, where I lived all my life, I grew up in Alabama, we're not accustomed to this kind of city government. Not a lot of cities in our state have this government, and part of that is Alabama residents often think about when we elect a mayor, the mayor does every bit of it, does all the work. That mayor runs the day-to-day business. If there's a problem with the water, they're going to be taking care of that. If there's a problem with streets and all kinds of things, they're going to take care of that. They're also going to be at every event that you can imagine because they represent our city. They're going to do all the intergovernmental relationship work. So we expect them to do all that. So a con in this is that the mayor would not be doing all of those things. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about the role of the mayor, but it does change what the role of the mayor is. And then finally, we have confusion could occur if those roles and responsibilities are not clearly defined. And I just want to briefly flesh that out. It won't work well if we have a situation where department heads are saying, do I report to the mayor? Do I report to the city manager? Who do I go to? And so we want to have very clear understandings of protocols, processes, and system in place. If we don't, that could be a real con for us because then we could have create a great amount of confusion and more of a dysfunctional city. I don't expect that to happen. It's one of the reasons we bring it up because we want to address that on the beginning of the stage as we move forward. All right. So the role of the mayor, what will the mayor do? Let's think about that. So on this slide, it has a lot of words on there. I know you'll be able to review it later, but let me just highlight. So in the council mayor form of government, which is what we have now, the mayor and the council are elected by the citizens of Madison, and the mayor is the CEO, in essence, of Madison. And so the mayor is responsible for all of the day-to-day operations of the city. And Mayor, I can't remember, how many departments do we have now?
There's about 12 or 13 departments, depending on how you look at it.
So 12 or 13 departments. So dealing with each of those departments and their various responsibilities for running our city and taking care of the operations of our city. So the mayor does that as well as formulate a budget for our city and then recommends policy changes to the council, appoints and removes the department heads as is necessary necessary and serves as the face of the city at all the community events that we have. You see a long list of stuff that a mayor does. Quite frankly, one of the things we thought is, we have very qualified, I think a wonderful mayor, Mayor Finley. He does a great job, in my opinion. That's a lot of stuff in a job description for an individual to do, and I'm concerned a little bit about the sustainability of that model moving forward as we grow and have all the different needs and goals that we have as a city. So, but that's the comparison of the form of government. The council manager form and the mayor and the council are still elected by the citizens of Madison. And now their job is, partially of their job is to hire this manager for the day-to-day operations of the city. So what changes here essentially is the manager is going to take care of the day-to-day operations, developing a budget, hiring and firing as needed department heads, working directly with the department heads to implement the vision of the city at large. And then the mayor serves as the face of the city. The mayor becomes the president of the city council, sets the agenda for the city council, elected at large by the people, and can help set the overall vision and direction of our city through the city council. The mayor then is our representative at all the events that we want the mayor to be a part of, helping to build and create a strong morale in our city, for example, but also the relationships that we want to have with other city government leaders, state leaders, and so forth. So the mayor's role that does all of these things would essentially be divided, where the manager does the day-to-day operations, the mayor takes on the vision, the leading of the council, and the relationships in the community and with other communities and government groups. So one other thing we thought here that you should know about salary ranges, and I think the mayor will speak more to this in a moment. So as we identified some of the just different ranges, and you can see the 10 largest cities, the mayor salary range is quite vast, from $16,000 to $157,000. Madison has the mayor and the city administrator at $180,000 in our budget as a city. The cities with a mayor and a city manager or administrator, the city manager salary range is $146,665 to $215,000. The mayor range from 0 to $157,000. And then Hoover is an example for us to look at of a city that's about 25,000 more than our population. Say the mayor's 90,000, city manager 196, 498. So just so you could get that information before you. And now I'm going to ask, I think, Mayor Finley to address the next section.
Yeah. And the next one was the salary that right now we have in the mayor's office. Maybe a little bit tough for you guys to see. It started off when I came into office in 2008, it was a salary of $76,000. I can tell you very quickly that I assessed in looking and managing the department heads that I was the lowest paid department head in the city while managing the city, which was fine. That's what I signed up to do. In 2011, late 2011, when I made the decision not to run again, one of the things that I requested for that city council to look into was raising the salary of the mayor. The higher the salary, I felt like the higher caliber of individual that we would have that would be looking to run for the mayor. And you saw the responsibilities that they had, and council followed through with that, and they've continued to follow through with that. And by the end of 2024, which is the last year that, well, again, the state added 1 year to our terms. Didn't ask us, just went ahead and added it. But what's set up right now is by the end, the mayor's salary would be $119,000. It is on the, I'd say the mid-range of the department head salaries. A lot of those from a tenure standpoint have been here longer. So it's right in the middle of the department head salaries. But that's the salary of the mayor. Just so you guys know, and one of the things going back to what Mike talked about, the mayor's office has one person that serves at their pleasure. It's really, right now, the title is actually administrative aide to the mayor. But when I came in 2008, recognizing what was needed, we hired someone or I brought someone in that could help facilitate and act almost as a city administrator, and we've continued along those lines. So, there's only one person that serves at the pleasure of the mayor, and that's to support the mayor in accomplishing all the things that needed to be done. You can imagine sometimes they're better internal, sometimes they're better external. So right now, Steve Smith is acting in that role as city administrator. Steve, having been a former city council member and understanding budgets, understanding how things work, has been supporting me in accomplishing that. But that's how that's set up. Also, I wanted to pass along right now the way we're set up. And so as Mike talked about, the council and mayor would be responsible for hiring the city manager. Right now, the council is responsible for hiring our police chief, our fire chief, our city attorney, and our city clerk. The rest of the department heads are hired by the mayor. All of them are managed by the mayor. So just to give you an idea of where we are right now, so if you go back to what we do, and I think our HR department helps us do a phenomenal job of on these larger type, when council has a responsibility of hiring folks to keep us safe, to keep us legally out of trouble, and to make sure the day-to-day operations are running smoothly, we have a wonderful process that's in place that then usually brings those before council, 3 to 5 people. We manage that for them. We bring them 3 to 5 candidates that are vetted heavily, that are in turn interviewed, and we bring those to council so they in turn can hire the best possible person and the best possible fit for the city of Madison. So that leads us to questions, and I know in this case, Councilman Shaw, we're going to hand that back to you, and then I know the first one is going to be for Mayor Anders, who has been waiting patiently to be able to answer. A couple of these questions came from you guys that I know Greg will lead, and then we're going to turn it back over to you all to ask any questions that you would have.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Anders. I'd like to ask, would you describe the division of duties and responsibilities between you and the city manager at Auburn now?
Sure. And again, thank you all for having me today, and I appreciate your patience getting this date scheduled. So it's been covered very well. Y'all have done an outstanding job on your research and trying to quantify what makes this form of government unique. Simply put, Megan Crouch, who is our city manager, she is the chief operating officer of the city. She comes to work every day. She makes sure that all the equipment is in line, that all the employees are doing what they're supposed to do, that all the money is being spent well. It is her job to operationally run the city every day. It is my job to be the political leader. I'm the chairman of the board, and the board, if you will, is the city council. And so I'm the one who is meeting with the different stakeholders in our communities that either have ideas or have problems. I'm the one who's meeting with other governmental leaders. I'm the one who's meeting with the people at Auburn University about things that relate to town and gown. I'm the one who meets with our legislative leaders, whether they're in Montgomery or in Washington. That is my primary role. I serve on a number of boards and commissions. A lot of that is related to different governments in East Alabama. But I'm the chairman of the board, and Megan is the chief operating officer of the city. She works for me, but she also works for the other 8 council members. And so it takes 5 of us to change the rules in the city and change our laws and change our vision. But I'm the leader of that group.
All right. And to kind of follow up on that, how do y'all hold her accountable, and how do you know she's being successful in her role?
Well, she's just finished her first year, and we have just finished our latest municipal election at the end of August. And so going forward, there will be we will have a process that we'll undergo with her each and every year to equate her job performance. She has a budget to follow. She has a mandate from us as we adopt rules and ordinances that we expect her to follow through on. She helps us solve the problems of the city. In the future, there'll be a formal process where we'll go and do a job performance review with her. But it'll be up to all 8 council members. All 8 council members plus the mayor will review her job and review what she does to display whether she's successful or not. I spend the most time with her. I am generally with her for 3 or 4 hours a day. Our offices are right across the hall from one another. We're in constant communication, where she has more sporadic communication with the other council members, but I'm the only one with an office here in City Hall.
Can I ask one more?
Yeah.
Mayor, as far as her first year, what was her background and what made her viable as someone who you guys now have as a city manager?
She'd worked 23 years in the city. She had started off in our planning department. She was at Auburn getting a master's degree in community planning, and eventually was hired by our planning department. After a few years there, she was brought into our economic development department, which is where she spent most of her time in her career. When our former city manager retired, she was a natural candidate as far as understanding um, our community, understanding the uniqueness of being in a university town. And she had a wealth of experience in two critical areas, which is planning and economic development, which are things we spend a lot of time on and make a lot of decisions about here in Auburn.
Great.
Thank you so much, Mayor.
Yep.
And Mayor Finley, would you describe what a typical day looks like for the mayor of Madison and what the duties and responsibilities a mayor might have if the voters approved a city manager form of government?
Well, I think Mayor Anders just gave a good understanding of kind of the balance of what those roles are. And in our case, we're responsible for both. You know, an example, last week we had, on one specific day, we had two different retirement ceremonies out on Redstone Arsenal, both for three-star generals, of which it was really important that Madison be represented there, and we were. We had a change of command ceremony that we were at. We also had a work session that night that was specifically on economic development for Town Madison, and we're still working on that. But where our role as mayor in the mayor's office was to have our city attorney prepared, our economic development team prepared to present to council the pros and the cons of some of the things that we were looking to do there. And along all of that, we also met with our finance chair to discuss the budget, which we handed off from the mayor's office to the finance committee for next year's budget. All of that, there was a lot of work that went into the budget part of that, the Town Madison economic development piece of that. But as mayor, you're responsible for putting the budget together based on what the vision of the city is. You know, right now, again, the vision of the city and our mission statement is to take the monies that we're given and in turn give the best possible services we can and take that money and stretch it as far as we can. And again, vision in the city of Madison has been and will continue to be managed growth. You have to find the balance of now and that outkicking your coverage as far as the things, you know, we're growing. We're going to continue to grow whether we want to or not. It's kind of like my youngest son who, when he was 5 or 6, said, "Daddy, I don't want to grow up." Son, I'm sorry, you're not Peter Pan. We're going to. So let's manage it appropriately, and that's what we're doing. So that's our vision right now is what we're doing, and our job is to manage that. So our budget right now that I think we're really proud of focuses on the quality of life issues that are critical to Madison, and we've been working with our department heads in each respective area. You know, again, we got Jason over here who's the director of IT. Cybersecurity, monster area of concern for the city, has been for the last few years. What does he need to make sure we stay safe from cyber threats? Both police chief, fire chief. We'll work with them on their budgets. What equipment do you need? What personnel do you need to keep us safe? You know, and I could go on down the line with each department. Our job was to roll that budget up and then give it to the finance committee. And then council manages the money. They're the ones who would agree, yes, that's what we will do. And then our job, once they give it back, is to go facilitate getting those things done. So that's a typical day in what we kind of do in the mayor's office.
Very good. And Mayor Anders, how is your office and the city manager's office staff now? Like, what does your staff and her staff look like?
Well, my staff is me, but I certainly have the resources of all the employees here, especially within the city manager's office. So we have 17 departments. We have over 500 employees here at the city. In the city manager's office, there's all kind of strategic budget and planning staff. We've got city clerks. We've got public affairs. We've got a neighborhood specialist, commercial development officer. And so all those people, if I need them, are available to me. But yeah, 17 departments, 600 full-time employees. And for myself, it's just me.
And I can follow up in the city of Madison. The mayor's office has Kim Lindsay, who is the administrative assistant. She's been there. I guess she goes all the way back to Mary Ann Cura as far as being in there. She is the rock and the stability. She has about 2 or 3 more years left, and then she's going to retire. But that has been, when you go to the stability in the mayor's office, that has been our stability. As I said, we have the mayor, we have Steve Smith, who works as a city administrator, Samantha Magnuson, who is our communications specialist, and that's who we have in the mayor's office right now. Then in turn, when you say city manager, city administrator, that's who would all combine into that respective office.
All right. That's all the questions that I have. So we want to open it up to the floor to everyone here. If y'all like to come up and to the microphone so that everyone at home can hear, and that'd be great. If you could limit your questions to one question, and as we go through, if there's time, we'll go as many rounds as we have. But as you come up, if you could just limit to one question first.
You get to the next chair.
You're on that.
Good afternoon. Hey, thank you for having this forum and the others that you've had. It's very informative.
Absolutely.
And I really appreciate that you're looking forward to the advantages of our city and what form of governance is going to serve us best. So thank you for that. One of the defining criteria, if not the defining criteria for the proposal, is to have a professional, i.e. a credentialed city manager, somebody that's qualified not just in any particular functional skill set, but that has the skills to lead a city in all of its diversity and functions. I haven't observed yet, and we talked about, well, we could, and I've been in positions before in government where there are pros and cons of bringing somebody up from inside that knows the organization. There are obvious advantages to that, and then there are the disadvantages of not having the expertise of coming from an outside world and all the things that they might bring with them as well. But when we're looking at having a credentialed city manager for those requisite technical and leadership skills, where are we codifying that as a requirement? And if we're not, why are we not codifying that as a requirement for positions that we don't just hire in Mike Sheehy or whoever else might come along that we think is good? Thank you.
I can probably take the lead on that. And then, Mayor, you could probably help as far as your all's job description, as far as how you did that. There's 2 different ways that I'll address that. First and foremost, the way the city administrator is hired right now is who the mayor puts in there. It's at the discretion of the mayor. And I'll say if the mayor decides to fill that role. And that's one of the areas of concern that I had in between when I left in 2012 and when I came back in 2016. We chose not to fill that position. We did not have anybody administrating or managing at that level, which to me was a huge loss for our city. What had to happen is our city council literally had to step up and manage a lot of that. So it's at the mayor's discretion. I'm really proud of the folks that we've had in that city administrator role because I recognize what's needed to continue to manage the city. And as it's going to become larger, there's more responsibility. Going to your question, we would codify that. We would put together a job description defined, usually managed out of the HR department, where they go and get all the different job descriptions from others who have that role. It would then be worked with our city council, in this case the mayor council, till we had a job description, and then we would put out a nationwide search. It would be exactly as we would do for the police chief, the fire chief, the city attorney, and the city clerk. At that point, it comes down to what's the best fit for your city, and that would be a decision that was made by those 7 individuals. So the job description is going to be a professional job description for a city manager. It would then be, we'd put it out nationwide, we'd down select, we'd have interviews, and we'd eventually hire somebody that directly correlates with that role on a professional basis. And Mayor, how did you guys do that?
Sure. So I've been involved in one turnover here, and our HR department did put together a job description and a process. And the process that we took forth was we were going to look internally first before we looked externally. And we had our candidate, once Megan interviewed, and and said that she liked this job. She was vetted by the whole council. The council decided she was the one for us, so we went ahead and made the hire. Then we negotiated a salary with her. So that's how we handled her hiring. And that was done about a year and a couple months ago.
And I can tell you, of the 4 positions that I mentioned, 2 of those that have turned over in basically the last 4 years, 2 of those we ended up hiring from within. That would be our city attorney the first time. We went outside the second time. And our city clerk was someone who had been the assistant city clerk. Both the police chief and the fire chief came from outside of our area as they were hired, all of which were based directly on job description and then best fit for our city.
Very, very good. Yes, ma'am.
So this is probably a better question for the mayor from Auburn. One of, I think, a big concern in changing the government structure is, are we adding a layer of, I guess, a layer in between accountability between the electorate and those elected? So there's concern around a city manager being responsible for the city, but the accountability factor to the people. So can you give us some more information on how that is handled, or maybe explain how it doesn't impact us?
Sure. Well, this has been our form of government since 1982, and I would tell you that the accountability still lies with elected officials. I mean, it is up to us to lead and guide and inspect out of the city manager those initiatives and those things that are most important to our citizens. Um, and she and our city manager is held accountable to us. Um, is that a layer of communication? I'm not sure if that's a layer of communication. You can certainly look at that point of view if you want to. I believe it adds a professional whose only focus every day is to see about the good things and the right things for the city and to solve the problems and do the good work of our citizens. And I believe the professionalism and the experience and the knowledge outweighs the fact that there might be another line of communication that has to go forth to the city manager. All that has to be very well laid out, and our city council reps have to understand that if they receive a complaint or concern or an idea or a need from a citizen, that there's an efficient, effective, purposeful way that they communicate that to the city manager, and that there's an effective, purposeful way that they hold uh, that the city manager is held accountable in getting all that resolved and taken care of. Communication is very important. It's very, very important in any form of government, but it's very important in this form of government. And everybody has to be on the same page as you do the work of the citizens. But it's my belief that professionalism of the leadership and the daily understanding of what needs to be done by somebody who is prepared and planned to run a city outweighs the fact that there might be a secondary line of communication. My background is in retail, and it certainly prepared me to be a mayor from making hard decisions, from being able to deal with people that are happy and sad, and to be fluid and flexible in my thoughts. I certainly am not prepared to sit in that office and manage $100 million of money and understand governmental accounting and manage 600 employees, but my city manager is. And I believe in the long run, Auburn definitely benefits from that. But you have certainly communicated one of the greatest challenges, and that is to make sure that everybody's on the same page and understanding how things are communicated between the electorate and the city manager.
I can just add to that as far as the city council member now, if I have somebody calls me with a road issue or trash issue or whatever that is, that I can call the mayor, and then that trickles down. Or if I call department heads, and then you got 7 of us calling a department head, who does that department head listen to? Does he listen to the mayor, me, Mara, Connie? So it puts everybody in a weird position because they don't. It really is not my role to call a department head and go, hey, go look at this at this pothole or look at this. But, so if we had this person, I could call him or her and say, hey, can you check this out? And then she can schedule or he can schedule because they know what's going on throughout the whole operation side. So for us, it would almost streamline a lot better, other than it being a free-for-all.
Well, and I would add, just sorry to jump in, but we are not allowed by our rules to contact and manage department heads. So even me as the mayor, I cannot call the director of the water department or the police chief and give them an order and ask them to do something. All of that has to be routed through the city manager. So that prevents our department heads from having to answer to multiple people.
Correct. Yes, sir.
During the research period for this city manager, did y'all run into any cities that had considered it and then gone back to their old style for a reason, and why, if you did?
Yes, we did talk to one city that had voted to move in this direction, but they did not do that, and part of that was because of the racial makeup of their city and the way they would be able to draw districts, and they were not able to be able to do that to satisfy federal requirements, essentially. So they decided it was too much effort for all that. We don't have that problem with the makeup of our population here, but they did, and that was the only city that we talked to who had decided to wanted to do it, put it before the voters, said yes, but they could not implement it.
Well, out of the group of 10 or whatever y'all meet with,
Yes, sir.
how many of them use the city manager?
Let's see. I think of the ones we met, I think 8 of them did. I think 8 of them use city manager and 2, but I'll have to check my notes to be sure. I think that's right. Yes, sir.
Hey, if you could come here, because there's
We only get, yeah,
people at home.
one question, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you got one more, and then you can come back, but let's go one more.
Just the last one. So with that, more and more cities in Alabama are starting to head in that direction.
There are not a lot of cities in Alabama that have this. The bigger cities do, but others, it's just variety. And this is sort of a new thing. It's very prevalent throughout the U.S. Alabama is just sort of beginning to look into this, and we're seeing now Auburn, as he mentioned, is 1982. Had it a long time, so it varies. Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mayor, it should be noted that the last gentleman was in an Auburn shirt as he came up to talk, so I just thought that.
Yeah. Hope he's coming to town to spend some money this weekend.
So one of the things that I noticed when Mayor Andrews was talking was he said that they had 8 city council people. So we have 7 now. We're proposing to go to 6. I have no idea how big Auburn is compared to Madison. So how does that work? Why are we downsizing our city council? That's
Great question. Mayor, what size
Take
of city?
that. Yeah. So the census had us at 76,000 plus. Recently, we believe we're over 80 now. Auburn is growing at between 6 and 7 people a day. So we have 8 wards. So there's 8 city council representatives that are elected by their geographic area that they represent, and then I'm elected at large. So at a city council meeting, there's 9 of us, and I vote. I guess in theory, you could call me the tiebreaker if needed. So that was set up by our city fathers when we became a council manager city. They set up 8 wards way back in 1982. That was just the determination they've made, and I wasn't prepared to then answer the question, but I'm sure there was a good reason for that if you'd like for me to find that out for you.
Yeah, and I think as we looked at it, we felt like it was a good size right now. I know if you go to Huntsville, the largest city in the state, only has 5 city council folks. So in looking at 60,000 and divided by 6, we still felt like it was a manageable number if the mayor was at large.
Mayor becomes a voting council member and gets to appoint the manager, plus he gets to control the agenda as the council president. The mayor will consolidate a lot more power. So it will be run more like a corporation. And I'm just having questions about how will that benefit the residents as far as accountability and transparency. Because, the mayor will, as being part of the council that appoints the new manager, so they will convey more power to the manager. So it will be more of a corporate top-down and less representative, in my opinion. So maybe y'all could address that for me. Thank you.
So Mayor Andrews, when it comes to checks and balances,
Sure.
do you still feel like you have that separation?
No question. Well, just to clarify, our city manager was chosen and decided upon by the council. So I certainly took a leadership position in moving that forward, but ultimately 5 people on the city council had to agree that she was the right person. And just so you know, all 9 people agreed that she was the right person. Our agenda, she establishes and works with me on it, but she brings it forward to the council. We have a Thursday work session that we meet and go through the agenda, and then we have our meeting on Tuesday night. So really that agenda comes from the department heads up through the city manager's office to the city council. So I see it for the first time on Thursday now. There are many times I know that there are big items that are coming on the agenda, and we've discussed them before they appear at that Thursday meeting. But that all emanates from the department heads through the city manager's staff. As far as transparency, we have done a number of things here, whether it's live streaming our meetings on Facebook and YouTube, we have them on an AM radio station here locally, carries our meetings live. We do a number of things as far as communicating the decisions we make. The day after the meetings, I do a mayor's minutes where I do a wrap up that is put on social media. We try to avail all the information we can to our citizens so they do not have to wonder where to find it or what's going on. I believe transparency is at its greatest it's ever been in our city right now. But once again, that takes effort. You got to be very, very intentional about that. But our city manager, I do not feel like I have taken all the power as far as all the decision making. She was decided on by all the council, and the agenda really comes from the staff up through the department heads, through the city manager to the city council.
And I don't know, I've never been a part of that system. I will tell you that I do like, as a mayor, with the roles that I have in this job right now, the ability to be separate in certain areas. When it comes to our school board decisions, that's probably the most important thing our city council does every year, is put a school board member on. And I am in no part, I don't go to the interviews, I'm not a part of any of that, because it's their role and responsibility. My job is to support manage and lead the team of supporting our schools to make sure they have what they need to be successful and the infrastructure to continue to keep them strong. We put the budget together from the mayor's office, working with our department heads, focused on what everyone has said we want to accomplish, but that is handed off to them. They vote on it and then bring it back. And then lastly, for those 4 main positions that they hire, we work diligently with HR and typically have a council member on there. We're well represented to in turn break it down to 3 to 5 people, but then that is handed to them and they are responsible for that. So with what Mayor is talking about, you still can have the separation both ways. That's the only way that I know how it's done right now, and I do like that separation piece of it.
And Paul, if you don't mind, I'll jump right in just to follow up on some things. So our school board, we are charged with appointing our school board members, and I do participate in that decision because that is a council decision. And it's probably one of the most important, as Paul said, one of the most important responsibilities we have is to appoint our 5-member school board. Our budget is brought to the city council by the city manager. Once again, it's developed from the staff to department heads to the city manager, and she brings it to the city council. We have a number of budget hearings that the public can attend, and then ultimately the city council and the mayor decide on the budget. But it is crafted and drafted by staff members through the city manager. So there are separations there.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you for having this forum. I grew up in Hoover, and just comparing population and some of the cities that you mentioned that have the city manager, Vestavia has 35,000 people. These are 2020 numbers. I just Googled them. Mountain Brook is 20,000. And one of your slides said Hoover has a city manager, but Wikipedia says it's a city administrator. So they actually have the current form of government that we do, and their population's 85,000, which is more comparable. And I love this city. I moved here about 13 years ago, and Sorry, I'm nervous. But I love the town. You can drive through it, and you can drive by. There's pastures, and I just love that. To me, I'm concerned about the rapid growth. But I wanted to ask a question. So we've had a lot of discussion about the differences in the type of government. I wanted to know for you what factors led your committee to conclude that we should consider this city manager form of government. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question. And I want to reiterate, when I came into this, I honestly don't know if I knew. I had never grown up with this kind of form of government. So I didn't have an idea that this is what we needed to do. We all went into it, I think, with a blank slate and just were asked to inform the city council and the mayor what we discovered. And so as we met with these cities, we came to the conclusion that this would be a good fit for our city. The pros that we put up there were probably some of the primary reasons. I'll just tell you a few, just sort of, layperson talk as we met. We had some concern, if you elect, like I think Mayor Finley is a great mayor who can juggle all these balls and take care of the city and move us in a good direction and relate well to people, we can do well. He mentioned a period of time when the city council was having to directly go to, to city department heads. And the department heads spoke to us, and they all felt that was a situation that was, okay, who do I answer to? Who is telling me what to do? So we felt like a professionally managed city. As Madison has grown, we love the quality of our life here, as you mentioned. We want that to be sustainable. We want a good mayor who can lead us and set vision along in a collaborative way with our elected council. But we thought taking away all that day-to-day management, get a professional to run the city and implement the vision. For us, that was going to be the best model to move forward for Madison, and that's why we made that recommendation.
It's okay. If we sit here and we watch like 3 people get up, so it's kind of fun to see what's going to happen here. It's like a traffic cop.
Okay.
So, but we got plenty of time, so we're going to get through all of them.
Mayor Anders talked about how his city manager had 500 or 600 people in their department. And then you talked about having a few people in your department. I'm wondering about the dollars and cents. How many people does the city have to hire to help with that kind of thing? What is it going to cost for us as a citizenry to pay for all these salaries? And do we really need 500 or 600 people to head that department, or is that the department heads that he's?
And I think the 500 or 600 is the total amount in the city of Auburn as far as how many they have.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's exactly right, Paul. That's exactly right. In the city manager's office, there's about 10 people that support her work on a daily basis, but there's 500 employees for the city of Auburn. That includes 17 departments, 500 employees.
Okay, so that would city manager would inquire.
Technical difficulties. Please stand by. Everybody, right? I guess everybody, we didn't say, but check your cell phones right now if you would, please, and let's make sure they're turned off. Okay, go ahead. Yes,
so it wouldn't mean that we're going to have to. Would it mean we'd have to hire 11 people because you have the city manager and 10 people to help them? How much more money is this going to cost us?
Sure. I think it's a great question. And so let me give you an example of what I feel like this budget has in it right now that we've brought to the city council that costs salaries but saves money. Right now, in our current budget, we have a project manager, a facility manager, and then basically a bid proposal manager. Right now, 2 of the larger projects that we've had in the city, because of how they were set up on the front end, have each cost about $600,000 on the back end. Had we had someone who was a project manager on the front end working with the bid manager to make sure the specs on the front end were the same things that we bid on the back end, we'd have saved ourselves $1.2 million. Now, we wouldn't have because it's going to cost us about $200,000 in salary probably to do that. But as this city has grown as large as we have we've done a phenomenal job. And our department heads and our team are incredible as far as doing more with less. But as the city has become larger, it's critical that we have the right people in the right positions. So sometimes you have to spend money to do it correctly and save money. So no, I don't think we would need 10 people in that department immediately at all. I think we need a couple, probably more people to make sure that we do it appropriately. So I think it's a great question as far as that we're focused on each and every day. We'll present tonight at the city council meeting that we are doing another step increase. We're keeping insurance the same, and we're adding a COLA to make sure that our employees are taken care of because they're doing more with less. But we do need to spend a little bit more money as the city grows. You know, right now, when I probably came in, I think when I came into office in 2008, we had about 320 employees. We'll probably have someplace in the neighborhood of 390 when this budget goes into place. So it's a great question. I think we're focused on each and every day is making sure that we maximize the amount of value that you get as citizens with the people that we employ.
So in the city manager's office, just to clarify, she has city clerks, which help her with all the administrative responsibilities. She has budget analyst and planning staff, which helps her with the budget, analyzing, evaluate, watching the budget. And then she has a public affairs team that helps us with our communications, helps us with communications with our citizens, helps us tell the story of what's going on in Auburn. There's some legislative oversight relations that goes on there as well. So those are kind of the three areas that she has that are directly just in her department.
And before you go, one thing I'll go directly back to your question. I would foresee happening if this were to transpire is the mayor's office would still have someone that serves at their pleasure. They wouldn't act as a city administrator anymore. They'd help the mayor to continue to manage the duties that we're still responsible for, and then the city manager would come in. But most of the roles that Mayor Andrews just talked about are already covered within what we have in the city right now.
Thank you. Can you hear me? One question and one request. I'd like to see an org chart with functions and responsibilities and also a chain of command as far as the new organization you want to set up. How does the city manager come in and work with you guys? Who has authority, who does not?
Okay.
As far as the question is concerned, what assurances do we have as citizens to make sure that we're creating a layer of management and government that's out of reach of the public? One of the big things that we have recently, and I know you guys have dealt with this, was the Madison City Schools. You guys appoint school board members, Huntsville elects them. And what are we going to do? Are we going to have good assurances that we're not creating a layer of management that's out of reach of the public through elections?
Sure. I mean, I'm thinking through that right now with the number 2 school system in the state as far as academics, and wondering how that's a bad thing. But I don't think I have a good answer for you right now. The biggest decision, again, that our city council makes every year is who they put on that school board. Those 5 folks that are not focused on the politics, they're focused on the students and the school system. I think it's one of the strongest things that we have in our city. When there is no good school, no bad school. They're all great schools. Every school is an A-rated school. So I understand that, we would talk about elected versus appointed, but if you talk to anybody in this community of Madison County, they love appointed folks because it gives them the ability to be apolitical. Right now, when we have to do redistricting, they can do it based on what makes the most sense to keep balanced schools. So now let's transition that into government. Right now, it is important on who you hire as mayor, because your mayor is the only person, whoever they put in that, if they put somebody in that number 2 position, it better be someone who can help administer and manage the city. And I feel very comfortable since I've been, back in office, that we've had solid people in those positions that are helping us administer and manage the city. So, but you're only as good as the mayor that you elect right now, and we are held accountable. I can go back to the 3 elections that that I've been in, 2 of those were against sitting mayors. So, I think in this case, you were running against what they were previously doing. The third one, someone was running against me. Did they do a good job or bad? So I think you do have the ability to manage that way, but an appointed isn't always bad.
But at the same time, if the city council is going to this person over and over again with 0 results, they're not going to keep that person there failing in that role. So if I went to that person over and over again and asked for help in this subdivision or for whatever I needed, and it was just kicked, and that can was kicked over and over again, then it would not be a good situation.
The only rebuttal to that was we recently went through an issue with mandates, and a lot of the parents were objecting to that, and the school board blew them off, and it resulted in a lawsuit. And that's a direct result of the fact that the parents no longer have control over the school board members that are teaching their children.
I think you have a great point in one sense, but there was a lot of people that weren't saying anything because they agreed with the decisions that they were making. And so I can tell you, as someone who had to manage COVID, it was absolutely the hardest thing that I've ever had to manage in anything that I've ever done.
But if you're making a decision, not worried if you get a vote or not, you're going to make a lot better decision.
Mayor, it's good to be here. You had said in 1980 we had 5,000 people. Actually, I think I moved here in 1978. We had 3,700 people, and
you brought 300 people with you.
A lot of people moved here because it was a small town, and boy has it grown. But love Madison. It is probably one of the best cities in the nation, and I agree with that. And we have grown well. We've had great departments. I've dealt with departments in the past. You can go to them, you go down to their office, you talk to them personally, and have done that. And have really appreciated all the work that the government that has happened. Because it has worked so well in the past, that brings up the question, why the change? And I understand that when you grow, you do have change. I moved here from a city like Nashville, a little bigger. It's a metro. And knew the mayor at that point too. But the question, and this is a good question that came up, because of the experience in the past we had, and I think you made the point that those who were not upset did not say anything about the school board. But there is such a feeling here that there was such a firewall between us as the parents of students, us as grandparents of students, that there was a firewall between us and the school board because they were appointed. And then when we talked to the city council, we were going, oh, that's not our responsibility. So that's what brings up the point that we have with this new position of a city manager. The question is, will we still have the voice that we want as the electorate? And number two, I just heard that we have a city administrator, and with the mayor in Auburn, do we need both? Don't we have a city manager if we have a city administrator? The city administrator. So that's kind of one of the disconnect. Now, the Auburn also said, and I heard that we have 13 departments in Madison. Auburn has 18 departments. Is there a need that we may need to look at expanding departments as opposed to a manager and let the administrator help handle that? And then we have more representation. I don't know what the difference there between their 18 departments and our departments, but I think there's still a lot of things that the city has, and I appreciate that our city, if you got 390 employees and they've got 500 or 600, you've done quite well. But our still concerns as the electorate is that, is this going to be another layer of a firewall between the electorate and the city of Madison? We never had that in the past because Madison grew well, and we appreciated the government that we had. So there is still a concern about this move to this new administration. My question is, do we really need it when we have an administrator?
I think it's a great question. I think one of the things we wanted to do was present information and gain the feedback that we're getting right now. As I started with, I'm really proud of what we've accomplished as a respective mayor, council, department head, and city employee team. As a matter of fact, when you see our coins that we give out, our coins, that's the 4 entities that we have on there. I will say this, As a mayor now in my third term, we now have a little bit, and I say stability, but our departments and our city has some stability as far as what they can expect. One of the things that I know you learned, but I've learned, is as mayors come in and go out, and as city council goes in and goes out, it's the first year to kind of figure out where the bathrooms are and what type of personalities you are. The second year where you can even get close to gelling. It's by the third year that you really are understanding how you work together, and then all of a sudden here comes the next election and a change. One thing that I heard and I've seen is that a city manager, if you hire the correct city manager, gives more stability for your department heads as far as how they manage things and how they do things. They work for the council, which is the mayor council, but they work for the council versus right now a city administrator works just for the mayor supporting things. So there's more continuity as far as the 7 people that would make that decision versus just the one. Again, I'm thrilled with the one decision that I've made each time that I have a city administrator in there supporting the city. But because I've been in here now and I'm blessed, believe me, I'm very happy with that. But there's been more stability within our city where we can stay on the same track and stay focused going forward without a change of things going on. I felt like 2020 was a referendum on are we doing the right things. I mean, it just was. I'm sorry. And I felt good about the results, and we've just just kept going. Was there a need for change? No, there wasn't, because we did a good job as a collective team. But if that changes, you're only as good as the mayor you hire, and if the mayor even chooses to fill that position, which if they don't, I can tell you right now, when you see all the responsibilities that you have, both internal and external, it is a hard job to continue to keep going in the direction and give it the time that it needs. Mayor, any thoughts on that?
I totally agree with you, Paul. I believe that your department heads are going to they're going to serve the citizens better when they don't sense the upheaval in the people who are leading them. And having a professional city manager gives them stability, which I am sure that they exude down to their employees. And you would think and hope and believe that that gives a better quality of effort on a daily basis to your citizens. And so, if your city manager is doing a bad job, then more than likely your electorate are going to have a hard time getting reelected when their cycle comes up. But that's why your city manager has to be evaluated on a continuous basis to make sure that they are doing the kind of job that they need to be doing. But I totally agree with you again, Paul, on the elected versus appointed school boards. It makes the person who's doing the daily task non-political, and I believe that the citizens get better work for that.
On that same thing, I think that we have done a good job, and as council, we went and visited some of these towns, and when we did, we said that this may be better, and that's why we brought it here. We wanted to lay it out in front of everybody and say, man, what do y'all want? We think it's pretty good, but it may not be. That's why we wanted everybody to vote on it. I'm one vote out of almost 60,000 people, but when we saw it and saw different form, we said, let's bring it back and lay it out here and let everybody look at it. And if it's a good idea, let's do it. If it's not, then don't. I mean, we're not trying to shove it. We're just saying, hey, it's worked for 8 of the 10 top cities here, and it's been very, very successful. So we said, well, let's look at it. So that's all that we're trying to do.
Successful. This is failing all over our country. There may be a few select, and I don't know if this mayor's been there for 40 years, but what you're doing to us is a transition, okay? You want to go from an elected person in charge to a selected person. You guys tried this our city tried it in 99, 05, and 2015.
We've never voted on this.
Did they not bring it up?
But we've never brought it to the public. We've never laid this out.
Okay. Well, it's failing all over the country. We just had one city that every single department walked out because of the city manager. They're being sued for tens of millions of dollars all over the country. You talk about 6 or 8 in Alabama. This has been going 40 years, okay? The population there is 76,000 currently. According to the census from 2010 to 2020, they gained 42% population. We've gained 4%. I don't see a reason to do this. I don't see a, I hear a lot of nonsense coming from you, but I don't hear a need. Why do we need this transition from elected to selected? And there is nothing in the law that says that they need any kind of certification. This gentleman over here came to a meeting and said, oh, we're going to hire somebody educated. But the law doesn't state that. And once, if we were to vote it in, then we have no choice. We get whatever is selected by the selected few. I'm against it 100%.
Yes, ma'am.
No, you've only, let everybody else go one time, and then you can come back up, if you would, you don't care.
You want?
I mean, anybody else wants to speak, and then if you want to have a second question, please do.
Well, I'm her husband, so you know. But
wait, does that count as the no? Okay.
I deserve your. I deserve something from you. Anyways, I'm not really for it too. I don't understand. You're taking away the executive branch of the local government. That the police are, respond to the executive branch. You're taking it away and turning the mayor might as well be the King of England. He's a figurehead, okay? So, and to hold, I don't see why you just can't have a city manager. The council's already they write the laws and they pass the laws. So they can vote anybody they want in. They can create anything they want. I don't see why you have to take the executive branch away from the people to do this. You can put anybody you want in city government. So I just don't understand. Just do that. You don't have to take away the executive branch from the local government.
So taking turning that into a question, if I could,
Sure.
Mayor, I don't consider you the King of England, but I think the question would be, if in the form of government that Auburn currently has, do you feel like you still have an executive branch that in turn, and from your responsibility and your role standpoint, how do you feel that equates to maybe what we're doing here in Madison right now?
In Auburn, the mayor is the political leader of the entire community. So, every budget that is passed has to come before the city council, and in theory, the mayor is the tie-breaking vote. Every ordinance and law that is passed in our city is done so by the city council, and the mayor is the tie-breaking vote. Every relationship, whether it's with a new industry, whether it's with a legislative delegation, whether it's with Auburn University, whether it's with my fellow mayors in East Alabama, the mayor takes the lead on all of that. So look, I'm not day to day grinding out, making sure that all of our garbage trucks are working and that the trash has been picked up after the football game weekend. That's not my responsibility. But I do believe that there's plenty for the mayor to do in the city of Auburn, and it keeps me going pretty fast, and they're all very vibrant decisions. Are there symbolic things that I do? Yes. This morning at 7 o'clock, I went to an elementary school and opened doors for the children. I do that at all of our elementary schools at the first of each year. Saturday, I went and sat in the president's box at the ball game. I didn't watch much of the game, but there was about 15 people that I had important conversations with to talk about the future of our community and what we're doing moving forward, particularly with a brand new university president experiencing his second Auburn football game Saturday. So yes, there's a lot of ceremony that goes with a job like this, and I never thought of myself as a king. I'm not sure I would ride in a carriage very well, but it does avail the mayor of Auburn an opportunity to get those kind of things done and be focused on those kind of responsibilities, because the day-to-day responsibility of taking care of the city is done by a professional city manager.
Well, maybe I didn't answer
No, hold on.
But it seems, I just see plausible deniability. So the mayor can say, oh, I didn't do that, the city manager did that. or the council can say, oh, the city manager do that. Or the city manager says, oh, I didn't do that, the council did it. And to hold, for a citizen to hold the city manager accountable, they got to hold these other 7 people accountable, and then hopefully, they'll hold the city manager accountable. So it just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I'll just say one thing, and, as we were researching this, the accountability to the council doesn't change, and the mayor. You vote them in, you can vote them out. That doesn't change. If the mayor and the council are not performing their duties to the satisfaction of the electorate, that's how you hold them accountable. And when you have an election, and if they're not making sure that the manager's carrying out the vision of our city and making sure the trash is picked up at the ball games and so forth, and they're not doing their job, you vote them out. You change the administration of your city. So for me, we didn't see that part when we did our research. The accountability remains the same, and the elections that we currently have will continue. And that's the way you make sure your city is run the way it's supposed to. You've elected your board to run this city. And that's sort of what we found. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm Mark Jacobson, and I'm not here to ask a question, but I'm here to give a perspective from a different side of things. George, I was city administrator, and it's a far cry from a professional city manager who's got the background, got the degrees. I used to laugh that I made no decisions, I control no money, and I manage no people. I assisted the mayor. From another standpoint, I spent 12 years on the city council, and I will tell you that of all the city council members, past and present, I've spoken to, they're all in favor of this, save one who's fairly neutral. Those are the ones I've spoken to. They've been on this side of things, and they think it's a good idea. We keep saying, I keep hearing there's no good reason to do it. Well, you've got lots of good reasons. Accountability, professional management, cost efficiencies. And the one I want to make a point of is continuity. Because when I got elected, 8 of 9 elected positions changed. The mayor and 6 of the 7 council members. And so you've got a whole bunch of fresh-faced, ignorant people, basically, going into office. Now, I have the utmost respect for Mayor Finley. I think he's done a wonderful job. He could be mayor for life as far as I'm concerned. But when he's not here, you're going to get whoever's most popular. I mean, you don't know what you're going to get. With a professional city manager, you've got that continuity to carry through with an elected mayor and an elected council. So I've seen it, and it was scary for this city to go through that kind of a change. That's all. Thank you.
Very good.
I made it. I actually just have a question for Mayor of Auburn, maybe a little bit for you guys too. We've talked a lot about the school boards. When the budget is done for the school board, and I know a few of you, maybe the Mayor of Auburn, I don't know your name, I'm sorry.
Ron, Mr. Anders.
Mr. Anders?
Mhm.
Okay, Mr. Anders, when the budget is done in Auburn, who controls that? Is it the city manager, the superintendent? Because I know here.
Are you talking about the school board budget or the city budget?
I'm sorry, the school board budget.
Yeah, the school board and the superintendent control their budget.
The school board and the superintendent, okay. So
Yes, ma'am.
As I understand it, then so then what is the role of the city manager with the school?
Well, we appropriate resources to the schools, so they share in our sales tax revenue. And then we have a 5 mil property tax fund that we allocate to the schools for them to offset capital projects. Other than that, there are a lot of things we do in tandem. We have just made the decision to put school resource officers in all of our schools. That is a city and school partnership for a couple of years. We'll pay some of that freight, and they'll pay some of that freight. Eventually, they'll take all of that. We have a lot of public safety engagement with them. We're going to be the #1 football team in the state, I believe, when the rankings come out on Wednesday. And so for all of our big home football games, we have a lot of that we go through with our public safety. So there's, whether it's a homecoming parade or whether it's, allocating resources, the city manager does have an active relationship with the superintendent and all the people that she works with. They have, a lot of buses that are flowing in and around traffic each and every day in Auburn. I mean, there's just a lot of reasons we have to talk with our school board, and then we appoint their school board members. Our school board members serve 5-year terms. They're allowed to serve 2 5-year terms. And so, as I alluded to earlier, that is one of the most solemn responsibilities we have, is to make sure that we appoint good people to that school board.
Okay.
But
So,
financially, they oversee their own money.
okay. So would you say you influence the schools?
As a parent, I have every right to express my opinions regarding my children. Certainly myself and the superintendent have a great relationship, and we talk about what's going on in the school system. Do I meddle in their business? Absolutely not, and I'm not allowed to by the way our rules are set up.
Okay. All right.
I can appropriate resources, and I can appoint their school board members.
Okay. All right. So how would our city manager do it? Exactly like that? He would have probably children in the schools, or he would know the superintendent pretty well. I think, Mr. Finley, I have it written down somewhere, you said it was the most important job that you guys did was appoint the school board. And we talked all about it. I know a bunch of people asked, but if it's the most important job that you do is do the schools, then you've stepped back and said, no, we don't have anything to do with it. For the past
So there's
couple
two
years.
things. One,
So
I don't vote right now as the mayor.
Right.
The 7 members of our city council appoint one person every year to the school board.
Right.
So as mayor, I don't have any role in that whatsoever.
Right.
Were this to change, then I would be one of 7 votes, and as Mayor Anders said, possibly the tie-breaking vote.
Right.
That in turn would so that would change.
Right.
But I can tell you, I echo what he said. We work hand in hand from the mayor's office with the school system to verify that they have the infrastructure that they need, both from a building standpoint and from a road standpoint, also from a safety standpoint. One of the things when we agreed as a community with 73% of the vote to increase our property taxes, it was not only for infrastructure for the schools, there was 1 mil of that was for safety. And because of that, we now have a school resource officer in every one of our schools. Tonight's budget will show we subsidize by about $650,000 the SROs in the schools. So we work hand in hand, just as Auburn does, in making sure that we keep the schools strong, but they manage their own budget and they make their own decisions.
1 mil of the city budget went to the schools?
No, the city budget does not go to schools.
Okay.
And the school budget does not come to the city.
Okay. Regardless, so you guys have influence over the schools, and you'd be a voting member. How can you assure us that it won't become political?
How can I assure you that it won't become political? I can't.
Okay.
I can't. Right now I have the ability as a mayor to say I don't have any part of that vote. And I don't think, and here's the thing, you're only going to be as good as the city council members that you put in there. They are, many instances, looking to put the best possible fit of a person in there as one of the 5 roles off. What they a lot of times look at is, do we have someone who understands, financial pieces? Do they have business acumen? Do they have any part of school understanding? When you look to put your school board member in place, you're looking at the best possible fit of those on who's possibly rolling off.
Okay.
So
who do parents go to when we have a concern? Because if you guys are not apolitical, you're appointed, you appoint the city manager. Who do parents go to? City council, the superintendent, or the city manager? Because if it's political, or at least some of you might be political, who do we go to? Because we haven't been able to talk to anyone in the last 2 years.
So would the area of concern that you had as a parent directly correlate with masking?
Yes and no. We have other issues, though, too.
Because that's a political decision also, and a parent decision, but they make the best possible decision that they could make for the overall school system, just as I made as a mayor for the city. The superintendent and the school board make the best possible decision, whereas mayor, I made the decision for the city, but I equated it to parents and adults versus children and the decisions that we had, both with the situations as they were at the time and also their ages.
So So if it's political, we don't like the superintendent, the board, the school board appoints the superintendent, you guys appoint the school board, that's all political. Who do the parents go to? See, it's a big mess, but this is.
It's a bit, I'll say this, and I won't disagree with you. A big mess for one of the top 2 school systems in the state.
Yes, but what
And
I'm hearing.
top 50 in the nation. And you have a parental choice also. You don't have to have them in our schools.
Will you help us get school choice?
No, I love school choice as a parent in the city of Madison. My kids went to a public school. All 3 received scholarships to their respective universities.
Look, Mayor,
So I hear you loud and clear, but it could possibly make it more political if you want to look at it that way.
I agree. It's
Okay.
been a hard couple years.
I agree.
Okay, but I think
It's
you
been a
need to-
very hard couple of years.
Right.
Totally agree.
Okay, but I think you need to respect the parents more. These are our kids. These are our schools. We pay for your salaries. Okay, we're going to pay for the superintendent salaries. We pay for the schools. And I don't care what side you're on. These are our kids. I think we can all agree we love our kids.
I
But-
absolutely agree, but what
now
I think I became a little bit frustrated with is you're trying to make a political.
Now you've agreed that you can't stay apolitical about it. That's a big deal. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. You win.
My concern is that it's kind of a redundancy. I'm just now finding out about all this stuff and doing research. If you have a city manager that is put in place that it takes the entire council to get rid of, I think that's what people are concerned about. That's what I'm reading as I'm doing my research, and people are commenting on this all over the place. Whereas if you have a city manager, you have a city administrator already that serves at the pleasure of the mayor, right? If they're not happy with them, they can just say, if the citizens aren't happy, they can say, you're gone. The other way, we have to wait to get rid of 3 to 6, or, we got to get a majority. And I think that's the concern. Has there been any thought at all on possibly putting in a interim manager to see if this works for our city?
Actually,
we have department heads that are supposed to be experts in what they're doing. We're paying them large salaries to do this. And it seems like if we had a city administrator manager / role maybe, or if we have to add one for a while and try it for a little while, this is going to cost, over $1 million to do this election? We need to, that's what I've read, about $1 million.
No, ma'am, about $75,000 to $80,000 is what.
75 to 85,000. I don't know who's posted on that. I'll find out about that.
Well, I can tell you dead on right here, cost of the election, possibly if we were have it, the earliest we would ever have it is the spring of 2023, and the cost directly from the probate judge's office was $80,000-ish, plus or minus.
But has there been any thought of a manager possibly put in interim to see if this works for our city before we make it that type of role? And does the mayor's salary change when we hire this city manager and then put in these people to support them? Because obviously they're going to need to support them.
Sure. I think the mayor's salary would absolutely change. So, and there's no question about that. And have we looked at an interim city manager? I think first and foremost, again, we're just trying to get the information out to here. The input that we're getting is valuable on whether we would ever look to go forward with this. Everybody tries to think it's a done deal. It's not. It was trying to get information for our city. Go back to what we talked about. What's the best possible thing for the city of Madison? But if you do vote it in, we would put in a city manager that we felt was the best possible person for our city to manage that. And it would absolutely be, goes back, it would be just like the police chief, the fire chief, the city attorney, or the city clerk, managed by, the city manager would be the one who manages all the rest of those folks. And it is a big deal in putting them in.
And I understand that. It just seems like there's going another layer of management. You have all these managers that are responsible for the departments. Maybe they need to be paid more and go, you're going to have to step up your game a little bit more and get your budgets and work together.
You got to have that operations manager. You got to have that that level there, because even in the small business that I have, we still have an operations manager that's between our maintenance department, our project department, our design, sales team, all that. I mean, it's just like the cohesive wheel.
I understand.
And we've talked about if you bring in, you're setting yourself up to fail, I think, if you bring in somebody, a temporary person, or less tried. I mean, who's going to apply for that job? So then you get the bottom of the thing, well, if this works out, we're going to keep you, but if not, we're going to cut it. Who would apply? I'd rather either not do it at all, or
People
if we
run
do
for
it,
political positions all the time to have a salary.
do what now?
They're not worried about what they do whenever they leave.
What,
People run for political positions.
They do.
I mean, when the mayor runs to be mayor, he's paid a salary until he's, either decides not to run anymore or he's voted out, one of the two, or somebody else is voted in, So that.
So to try to understand, just so I can make sure that, so your biggest concern is what?
Another layer of management in there where it takes all of the council members to fire that person or decide where, for us, the
Accountability
citizens,
again.
we got to convince all of you guys we're not happy with what this guy's doing. Whereas if it's the mayor that's responsible for it, citizens all come to the mayor and say, look, we're done with this guy. And is he a city employee? Are we paying all these benefits? There's a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions. I'm going to figure out how to get those questions to somebody where I can answer them. But this is not that avenue. But I wanted to come and listen. And I appreciate, your effort in researching this and finding out. And I'm going to continue to research and find out what I can find out too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you again for having this. This has been very informative. The ones with the two other city managers were very informative too. I have a timeline question. Now, you answered a minute ago that if the earliest we'd have an election was the spring of 20.
Well, I would see that you'd want to get through the Christmas holidays. You'd want to get into the first part of next year, and then you would look to define a time frame that makes sense.
Okay. I know we heard from the previous city lawyer that I guess when you're if the 900 signatures are presented, as soon as you get those, you have 90 days. Within those 90 days, you have to have that election. Is that still the case? Because that was what we were told earlier. So I'm just wondering now, what does that do with or could the group doing the signatures, can they hold them back until what is that process going to be like? And are people going to be alerted all along the way? I'm thinking we don't want an election just sprung on people. We want to have them time to research before they vote.
Sure. I can tell you one of the, first, I love your questions. The first thing that we would do is make sure, because Madison's unique, as is Huntsville, as in we're in two different counties. So you bring those to the probate judge. In this case, we would have two probate judges that we must make sure coincide. So that's the first thing I would do, and we've already started the process to understand how we would accomplish that, bring it together, and from a time frame standpoint. So if we get the signatures, and then the second part is how do you validate the signatures to make sure that they're real signatures. One of the things we're going to be, you talk about open and accessible, is we would absolutely publish those signatures. I think it's critical that we do that. It would start with our city clerk's office to make sure that they feel that those are viable signatures. At that point, we would work with our two different probate judges to understand how they want to do things and what time frames that they would look to do. And we think, based on trying to get all those questions answered, that it would be sometime in the spring of 2023 that we would look to do an election if that's where we headed.
Okay. And I want to thank you again for having this kind of forum, but I would like to remind the city to please be respectful to everybody that comes up here, even if you don't like what they have to say. We want citizens to be engaged, and when citizens feel when they're talked down to for asking questions and disagreeing, that does not make citizens feel comfortable to come up and speak and ask questions. So.
As a caveat to what Ms. Morgan was just talking about, how long, when will the petition, once there's the 900 signatures, will it go straight to you as the mayor, and then you will publish these signatures before they go to probate?
So I would work with our city clerk first to get all the information that we just talked about to make sure we would understand how they would work. And then in turn, determine the next steps and then bring that to the community at our city council meeting for them to understand what steps we would have going forward.
So there's no guarantee we're going to be able to see the signatures before they go to probate? I think it should be transparent that we should be able to, as the citizens, see this petition, see who signed it. I want to know if they actually live in Madison, and if they actually voted in the last primary municipal election, like the legislation from the state says.
Yeah.
I can just say from our finding, I don't know for sure the timeline, but I know on the petition that they have to be certified residents of Madison City. You can't tell if somebody's voted or not, though. That's a private. I mean, you can't go check if I voted or not, right? And that's secret.
They have at the Secretary of State.
We can know the number of people who voted, but I think your vote is sacred and
Secretary
secret.
of State has the DNR sheet. They have
I don't know. I have no idea.
to verify that they voted, because that's in the legislation. The state legislation for the.
I think that'd be eligible voters is what that's just what I remember, and I probably shouldn't even have spoken on this.
Yeah,
but
I have no idea.
It should be eligible voters.
So, I mean, they have that information.
Yeah.
So, I want to make sure that the citizens know that this is a legitimate process with this petition.
Yes, and as do we.
I mean, I know you respect that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
You want to do it correctly or not do it.
Which goes back to I think it's we don't have all of those answers, but I can tell you that as we go forward, we strongly believe exactly as you said, that it needs to meet the criteria that the probate judge tells us it must meet, whether they have to be a Madison resident, a registered voter. I don't know how that works, but we would find that out once we would receive the signatures. The time frame starts, my guess would be, once we go to the probate judge and says, what is it that you'd like to see from us to make sure that it meets your criteria? And then we would want our citizens to know if a petition is brought that it is legitimate.
So I guess as a citizen, I am submitting that I feel like the citizens should be able to see it before it goes to probate, but that's.
Yep.
Point of order, I visited with the probate judge about 2 months ago about this, and he assured me that as head of elections for Madison County, it would be his office's job to certify that the petitions were proper and so forth. I have not talked to the probate judge in Limestone County, but I'm sure it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So as far as seeing my name on the list, you're not going to get to see the list, but you have to take your elected probate judge's word for the fact that he certified him. Thank you.
Thank you.
I actually have a follow-up on my earlier question for better clarification, but just wanted to make a couple of observations first. Just for the group at large, we live in a representative democracy, and that means that we don't get to elect every single employee of the city. We don't get to vote on every single issue. And we brought up some of the cost considerations into that. We don't vote on the police chief. We don't elect the police chief. We don't elect the fire chief. We don't elect any number of officials. We elect you as our officials to represent us and to make those decisions for us. That extends to the school board. That extends to our planning and economic directors and any number of positions. That doesn't mean that we don't have accountability. We still have accountability through our elected officials to every single one of those appointed positions. And as you commented, Mayor Finley, in regards to the performance of our schools, in so many areas, that has been an absolute advantage to our city in enabling those individuals to make decisions that are apolitical, but that are still accountable through the political process of election to those officials. So we always have that accountability. And I observe that we'll continue to have that accountability in either form of government, whether we transition or whether we don't. The difference right now, as one individual was commenting, is that right now, if we take issue with the city quote-unquote administrator or city manager equivalent, that we can express that to the mayor, and the mayor can address that issue. The council doesn't have the ability to address the issue. If we change, lost the bubble on this a little bit. Really, and through our elected officials to hold them accountable, it takes an entire city to hold somebody accountable, through the election process. So really, this doesn't change accountability in any ways. It broadens accountability, takes the accountability off of the mayor alone, and it gives us representation through our full council if we want to hold the city manager accountable. I didn't articulate that very well, but that's what I wanted to express. The clarification, I want to come back on my original question. I didn't communicate it very effectively. We're talking about professionals. Our police chief is a certified law enforcement professional. Our fire chief, again, certifications in his profession. Our lawyer has to be a certified bar-passed attorney. If you want to go see a doctor, they gotta have medical school credentials. Again, the defining characteristic of going over to this is, and I'll just make a comment too. Mark Jacobson was perhaps the best example of a fantastic city administrator that we could have. Mayor Anders has commented how he is as qualified as he is in certain leadership aspects. He doesn't have the credentials to run a city and all the technical aspects of that. The defining characteristic that we're looking for in this potential transition, and one that I favor, is to have a professional city manager. That means certification. They got to be professionally certified. To go back and add clarity to my original question, and be more specific, are we going to require that individual be professionally certified as a city manager? Whether it's in the job description, whether it's in our policy and ordinance, are we going to require professional certification as a city manager? Because if we're not, I would state that we're going to get more of what we've got. So that's going to be the defining characteristic. Are we going to have professional certification as a city manager? Thank you.
Okay.
We have not written.
Where is the petition if I wanted to sign it?
There is a group out, there's one right back there, there you go. There you go.
So we have not written that job description as of yet, but I'm like you, I think that council would work with HR, and we want it to be as professional as you're saying, with either some kind of experience in that role or certification or whatever that is, but we want it to be a very specific role with specific the experience involved with it to have that seat.
No, and I understand that. And again, I think Mark Jacobson is just a great example of how somebody who may not have had a professional certification, but who's identified there's a very distinct role from a city administrator and a city manager. And if we're looking to do this, and what we've been marketing as an advantage is that this is going to be a person that's going to come in with requisite technical and leadership skills to run a city and all those diverse functions.
Correct.
If I want a doctor to operate on me, I want somebody that's been to medical school. If we're going to go to the effort and make this significant change, we want, I would say, I'm speaking for our community at large probably, we want a professional city administrator that's got certifications as a city administrator. So I know we're looking for experience and credentials. Are we looking for credentials? Are we looking for a certified, are we going to require that the person filling that role has a certification as a city manager?
No, I would just say, when we were researching that, whatever they decide, they'll decide. We'll just report what our recommendation was. But we did learn that there is an association that does credential city managers. But I'll have to go back and check. I think it's fairly new and it's very difficult to get. So many of the cities, their employees came in and then were working toward that certification, sort of like nationally board certified teachers do. They begin teaching and they work toward that. So there may be some models that they'll look at, but we all felt strongly they needed the background, the education in city planning or something appropriate to be able to take this role. So that kind of qualification was important for us too. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and I'll make a comparison. I'm sorry, I don't want to drag it out, but I remember sitting at one of the school board interview processes a few years ago, and you had an individual coming in who had been a teacher. A teacher is a very different skill set, than being a superintendent or a school board member, an administrator essentially in a leadership position. The same thing. If you can be a city employee, you may grow and develop, as the case in Auburn, you may develop the skill sets to be a great city manager, but being a city employee doesn't necessarily make you best qualified, and we're looking for somebody to meet the certification requirement. So it doesn't sound like we're ready to answer that, but I would ask you, and I would state that for me, it's going to be a defining characteristic of whether we're going to require professional certification because if we're not, that means that we're just subject to putting in whoever we feel is best for the job, and that may or may not work. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Hey, good.
So I guess, I've listened and heard everybody speak, and I know I've spoke with my council member about this particular topic. Right now I'm a little, undecided about how I feel about the transition. The argument that we could elect anybody, well, no matter which team you play for, if you played for 45 or 46, you could say we elected a kook and we got 4 years so we can get rid of him. So it doesn't bother me to think that we could elect somebody who may not have the skill set to do whatever, because that is the accountability piece. The things that I've witnessed is, and I've just recently returned to Madison, and where I feel like opportunities lie to hone government, if that accountability, if Mayor Finley or whoever's in the mayor's seat has a position that is, if he has these people, these department heads that report to him, and there's chaos, for lack of a better expression, then why would we not reallocate our resources to increase the salaries of the department heads, to get better qualified department heads? I don't know anything about our department heads, generally speaking, or to expand the number of departments that we have to where your job is to get the people elect, the council mandates, and then the mayor says, you go do this, you go do this, and right now you've got 12 performance reviews versus this extra layer. I'm a little conflicted on that. I understand that argument about having that in between. And question for Mayor from Auburn, sir, what tangible results have you had as mayor since you've been in the role, as far as this is kind of being sold or marketed as, rather, a way to stay involved in the political side of things, to be a liaison between the state, between Washington and so forth? What resources have you brought back to Auburn, and measurable things have you seen, financially related, because that's the big part that I would lean on, of why you might want to have this form of government if you're bringing back big resources to the city that otherwise you wouldn't have the time to do?
Well, I mean, we've just recently gotten a grant that we worked through Mike Rogers' office, that's going to provide over $3 million, that we're going to build a training and entrepreneurial center here in the city that'll be done in partnership with Auburn University. I mean, that is just something that's happened in the last 4 or 5 months. During the last legislative session, I was in Montgomery a number of times because we have an occupational tax here in Auburn, and it's our second largest source of revenue for our city. And there's an effort to maybe get rid of that on a statewide basis. And so I was able to go to Montgomery a number of days and just talk to legislators about that issue. So those are two. I'm not sure if that's answering your question. I'm trying to be very specific and black and white here, but those are two things that have happened just in the last few months. Well, spring, I would say.
And I can address a little bit about what you're talking about when it comes to how things are currently managed. So right now, regardless of whether council appoints those 4 positions or we hire a department head, our role is to manage them. And we manage them through defining what success looks like, giving specific requirements that they have in each relative area. A lot of that's done with the budget. Okay, you're going to be budgeted to take care of this. Let's go take care of it. And then we work throughout the year we don't micromanage. You know what you're supposed to do. Our job is to take away your inhibitors. At the end of the year, we have performance evaluations, and they are I'm responsible for writing those right now as mayor. I could delegate that if I wanted to, probably to a city administrator. I don't. I take the responsibility for that. And each one of our department heads receives a performance evaluation. If that were to change, I think, to the city manager role, that would be the city manager's role to do. The mayor would not be doing that, and they would be responsible for that. I can tell you the philosophy that we have in the city is the same that we had when I played recreational basketball. Each time that you lost somebody on your team, or that you could find, that you replaced them with somebody that was the strongest possible person that you could, that was a good fit. So each time a department head retires or decides to go to another position, we first and foremost work, and it goes back to the question that was asked, what's the job description? We'll use our director of HR, who again is phenomenal at what she does, to help define that newest job description. Are there additional requirements that are needed? A perfect example would be when I hired Jason in whatever year it was, like dog years, I know Jason, but I think it was 2010, 2011. Cyber really wasn't something that was paramount in that job description. I certainly hope that he doesn't leave anytime soon, but were that to change and he goes someplace else, we would reevaluate that job description and that would bubble up to the top. What's your experience in keeping whatever you've been doing in the business or municipality safe from cyber? And so we would reevaluate that job description and then go out nationally to find the best possible person that we could in whatever department head we have. So we'll do that each and every time. Right now, that's the mayor's role. If this were to change, that would go to the city manager role, and they would manage that. So that I think we do a great job with our department heads. I think they're paid well. They should be. They take the responsibility of getting done what needs to be done. But if one of them leaves, then we're going to reevaluate, go out and find the best possible person and then manage them accordingly.
Sure. And I've mentioned my last comment, I've mentioned this to several council members on different occasions. Council members are paid, what, $600 a month?
I don't know.
Something. It's a tip, basically. And, you know, so it's I chuckle a little bit when people say we're paying you. Well, I mean, the jobs that you do, as much as you do, you're woefully underpaid for. So, you know, this conversion to city manager, I'd almost like to see have a conversation about, and I've said this before, increasing council person's salaries, commiserate with the work that they're doing, and give them more responsibility to help the mayor field some of these things, and have that conversation about you know, who calls what department head, and have a process for that, and so on and so forth. I feel like our council people are not compensated.
You don't want people coming here to get paid. You don't want people to want to be in this seat. I promise you. That's wrong.
Sure, but it also expands the pool of talent that you could get for a council person who may want to participate and have that, you know, more involvement. If they're able to have a salary that's commensurate with the work that they're doing and to really focus their energies there, I think you can get not that any of our council people aren't devoted, but you can get a really devoted person to consider the role that may otherwise not. So that's my 2 cents.
Very good. Thanks so much. So we got about 5 or 6 minutes left. Is there any wrap-up questions anybody has? Or yes, ma'am.
Thank you for doing this again. I think you mentioned continuity and having maybe a city manager would allow more continuity as people, you know, transition in and out of the council and mayor roles. And I've worked personally for 30 years, and so I'm used to just in the private sector, that's something that we all have to deal with a lot, whether it's changing managers, companies merging, that kind of stuff, that happens a lot. And I think continuity, I think that if you're doing good things, having continuity is good. But if somehow a negative agenda or a bad agenda gets in, continuity can be a bad thing. So I don't know if it was on the city's information or Madison Forward, it talked about large projects, that if you were doing a very large project, continuity would be helpful. And I wondered, like, what large projects were, I guess, in that realm. What other than the stadium, obviously that was very large. And then back to the negative things. I lived in Aiken, South Carolina, which they had a city manager form of government for probably a long time, because this was, you know, over 10 years ago. And so there were negative agendas coming in, at least for some people in the community, with smart growth. And we've seen a lot of information, or people are learning about the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab and a lot of his crazy new Great Reset ideas. And I think I have concerns about that. I know some of my friends do as well. And that would be a concern for me, is if something like that gets embedded in through a city manager and that being a continuity, the difficulty it would be to change that versus if it's a, city administrator, we just have to, vote out the mayor versus we would have to vote out a whole city council if it was a city manager type of thing. But my question is, what large projects were you guys envisioning that a city manager would help with?
I'll give two that kind of go together as one. To me, the largest project in the city of Madison right now is managing the growth of the city and supporting our number one asset, which is our school system. It's why you hear that. So the continuity that we've had, coming in, and I'll just say coming back in 2016, I can tell you, and I'll just use it, in 2015, the State of the City address was simply PowerPoint after PowerPoint after PowerPoint of showing neighborhoods and growth. And we had no idea what that growth was doing, and nobody, to me, had a game plan for figuring out from our school system, can we manage this, and if so, how? So coming in 2016, working with our city council, we put together the Growth Impact Committee. And that committee analyzed growth of what was already in the pipeline, and then in turn gave three choices. You can stop it there, you can open the tap wide open and keep doing what you're doing, or you can come up with a game plan to manage it. We then partnered with our school system to in turn say, if we manage it, what infrastructure do you need to be supportive? And they came back and said we need, basically we'll end up needing 2 elementary schools, a middle school, and add on to the 2 high schools. And oh, by the way, we got to have a game plan for school safety. So understanding that, we did 2 things. One, council put in a growth policy that we're managing. And the second thing is we worked with the schools to give the community a game plan on, if you'll increase your property taxes by 12 mills, here's what we'll do to keep schools strong and growth managed. And we've continued down that path of managing that. Now, it's a long-term project. It's going to continue as we now work with the school system, because there is one more elementary school that's going to be needed to be built. We've had that game plan for a while. We strongly believe, and I think the school system will tell you also, we have the money that we need to get it done. We just have to figure out the distribution between the schools and the city to continue to manage that. We really don't need any more taxes. We just need to use the money that we have and stretch it as far as we can. So that's a continued process that, because you kind of have the same people in place, we continue to manage. Yes, we've continued to grow. When you hear that, we're growing, Auburn's growing, thank goodness we're all growing. But we're doing it in a managed way that in turn keeps education at its strongest level. On top of that, as council looks to put people into the school system as on the school board, because you've had the consistency there, they're looking to continue to put people who are looking at the best overall interest, not have specific issues. Right now, if you have one issue, which is masking, and that's all you're focused about, you may not be making the best possible decision that you could for our overall school system. And that's why when you hear my frustration of someone who's trying to twist words and move things on, is it more political? Yeah, it could be. It could be. But because we haven't done that and we've had the consistency all along, we continue to be focused on making Madison the best that it can possibly be. And I think we've done a wonderful job for it. And I guess if we can close it up, first, thank you for all that you and your committee have done. Mayor, thank you for your time and all you've done to support this. And I'll simply say, as a mayor, I'll end where we started. I can't be any more proud of our city. We're sitting in such a wonderful place. Our kids have gone to incredible schools. Most of them want to come back. There's no better quality of life issue in the city when your kids come back. I thought you just had to have food for them. Now they want to stay. And so we have a great city. All we want to do is have an open community discussion, and this has helped us immensely understand a couple of the concerns. One, is there going to be a layer that all of a sudden I'm going to not have the ability to make decisions, that somebody's going to be making decisions on their own without us having any ability to manage that? And then how's the process going to work if we do move forward? And so we've heard a lot of things that we're going to take back. If we have another one of these, we'll have more answers for the community, going back to some of the specifics that you guys would look at. But again, I'm so proud of Madison, who we are, what we've done, and I really do appreciate all you guys taking the middle of your day time to come and be a part of this. We'll have our presentation, we'll have this, it will all be on the website. Echo what the mayor said when it says, accountability and openness is critical, and we're going to have this ready for our community to continue to look at. So thanks so much, Mayor. Thank you. I'll see you here in a couple weeks.
Mayor, I should have
Thank you,
appreciated
Paul.
it.
Y'all have a great day.
Thank you so much, Mayor.